Wednesday to everyone.
All right.
We'll call the Town of Rome Plan Commission public hearing and regular meeting to order for Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 at 4 o'clock p.m. Item number 2 is roll call, starting on my right.
Wiesinger.
Janzak.
Baker.
Goldman.
Dilgy here. Jamadi here.
Commissioner Williams has been excused. Also present are Town Administrator Jamie Gebert, Zoning Administrator Emily Zeddies, and Town Attorney Nicholas Flanagan. Item number 3 to certify the posting of the meeting. Emily?
The agenda for the February Plan Commission meeting was posted at the following locations on January 31st, 2023. Rome Municipal Building at 4:20 p.m. This is not updated. Quick Trip at 4:25 p.m. Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 4:29 p.m. It was emailed to the Wisconsin Daily Tribune at 1:42 p.m. It is emailed to the town website at 2:26 p.m. and it was printed in the Wisconsin Daily Tribune on January 31st and February 7th.
Thank you. Item number 4 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jerry, second by Paul to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5 is the citizen comment portion of the agenda. I don't believe we have any cards or anybody that wants to participate at this time. The next section of the agenda is no action contemplated except possible referral to a future agenda item. Number 6, informational updates, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Does anybody have anything they'd like to present? Lake Camelot Fishery is this Saturday. It's from 7 to 3 on Upper Camelot. And I think that's the only thing I know about at the time. Okay. Hearing nothing, then item number 7 is to open a public hearing. 7A, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose. The short-term rental at the property located at 1470 Rain Dance Trail, owned by Vic's Arrowhead LLC, also described as Lot 26 of White Eagle addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the southeast 1/4, northwest 1/4, section 13, town 20 north, range 6 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-04713-0327. Emily?
There were letters sent to 10 property owners within 200 feet of the affected property. Staff recommends a maximum occupancy of 12, maximum vehicles of 6 to be parked on hard surfaces, not on the lawn or grass at the property. This conditional use permit is one requirement of the short-term rental license. The applicant must comply with all short-term rental requirements before first rental occurs. And this is the last one going through the old process. All the rest will be through our new process. Property owners are here if you have questions.
Would one of you gentlemen like to step up to the microphone in case we have any questions?
Sure.
Make sure the red button is on, red light.
Yep, you're on.
Make a statement?
Well, you can tell us what your thoughts are about your property or what you're planning on doing with it, and
Sure, yeah. So I'm Nick Villione. With me is Rob Cook. Our family's owned the subject property, and the purpose of our visit today is to apply for conditional use permit. We acquired the property back in 2019. Love the area up here, but as our kids are getting a little bit older, we're able to be up here less and less. So we'd like to apply for the conditional use rental permit to hopefully offset some of the carry costs that we have each year. So
okay.
This property is on water, on lakefront.
that's correct. Yep.
Will the rental have access to a boat?
No,
Okay.
Not at the moment. The boat we have,
it's excluded from. I mean,
It's been a question that we've had in the past, if they've had access to a boat, and if they did, if there's requirements for them to sign a waiver or to be over 25 in order to rent or operate it, so.
we'd prefer not to have the liability of people operating our boat.
Okay.
Is there a property manager within a required radius?
We have a person in mind. We're kind of taking this process slow, so we don't envision renting it this spring or anything. We're in the process of looking for a property manager or a property management company, and then a cleaner also.
How would that process work if they're not able to provide a name
They'd have to before they could be
before they were
licensed.
issued?
Yep.
It's
Okay.
typically a condition on our findings of fact, so a condition to the approval, and so it would be a condition before they'd be allowed to rent.
Okay, and could it be a person that we know locally?
It's just somebody within 25 miles, right?
Understand.
Their number will be the 24-hour number that's provided, so if there are issues where our system, our service that we use would call, they'll call that individual. So, again, not an issue if you use someone, but if you're using a neighbor and you have them get woke up at 3 in the morning, right? Like, that's, you just wanna make sure that you're having that conversation. They're the emergency number.
Of course.
Yep.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Number 7B, consideration of proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning, residential zoning district requirements regarding roof pitch. Emily?
So the amendment would make the residential zoning district's roof pitch consistent at 312. Included in the packet is a list of communities, with the roof pitch regulations and the comparison sheet showing the different, roof pitch styles. Actually, I don't, scratch that first one. It's the language and this, not the sheet from last month.
Yeah, I would just say that I believe the sheet from last month was in your packets, and so that broke down a kind of a survey of both the local communities, those that do regulate, because not all of them do regulate roof pitch, and then we did broaden that out pretty extensively, and surveyed the ordinances that do address roof pitch and what their requirements are. And so I think that summary sheet gave you a fairly good overview of how communities do treat that. And then I would just note that in that, there are some, it's not the norm, it would rather probably be the exception that there will be some added language, for example, being able to deviate by the zoning administrator and that, but the norm is typically to just hold the line at a certain roof pitch.
Okay.
And that's the minimum. They can
Minimum.
go 412 or
That's
612.
correct.
What was the reasoning for the going down to the 312 minimum?
There were property owners and the specific property owners that were building a house were architects, and they wanted more architectural creativity when building their house. There was multiple people that came in regarding the roof pitch, but
I noticed that in last month's meeting, there were specific zoning districts that were going to be modified to the 312.
it's gonna be consistent across all of town now.
Okay, so
there
it's
was-
all, the A1, the agricultural, because those were not included last time,
all
but I see
residential
that they
zoning
are,
districts.
well, then you have
Well, so,
you have the general agricultural district included in the packet we got, as well as the,
I guess when I say residential, you can build a house on agricultural zoning district.
okay, so anything where there would be a home
Yes.
constructed.
So it wouldn't be
Okay.
business district, B1, B2, it
Okay.
wouldn't be, yeah, but agriculture, you can build a house, so
Okay.
that roof pitch would be consistent
All
there.
right, that clarifies it for me, thanks.
Anything else from the commission? Okay. Move on to 7C.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Probably ask the public as well, since it's part of the public.
Okay. Do you have anybody that's,
You wanna talk about roof pitch?
okay.
Put them on the spot.
7C then, consideration of proposed amendments to Chapter 360 zoning, residential zoning district requirements regarding accessory structures. Emily.
Okay, so included in the packet is the updated draft language from Joint CDA and Plan Commission Subcommittee, as well as a picture description of each accessory structure type. And then there was that one, definition change that removes the word permanent from the definition.
Okay. Commissioners?
I would just note again here too that our larger lot sizes, your R4 and R5 are not included in this language, with the accessory structures. I know we noted that last time, but just reiterating that.
I have one comment, as long as we're changing the ordinances, should we be looking at R2, which currently allows 2 camping units? In all the other subdivision, or other zoning districts, we say if it's in the subdivision, it's only one.
Why didn't we look at that when we were looking at all the other zoning related to camping?
I don't know.
remember
I
what-
just
I feel
noticed
like
it
that
still
would've come
says
up.
camping units 2.
And I think that was more about the other camping regulation. Lake District was the only one that required the water and septic, and we carried that to all of the other, residential areas, cause it was only required in Lake District. So I think it was more the focus at the time to carry through those other regulations and the requirement of the camping permit.
Question for you, Nick. It says any permitted use in R1 district. If we just take that D right out of there, would then the camping regulations for D1 or for R1 apply to that? These other,
You are in Article 6, or what article are we in?
Article 8.
Oh, R2.
Article 6 has it all spelled out
Yeah.
about
Gotcha.
two camping units outside of a subdivision, one otherwise.
So you're asking if you just use A and remove D completely?
Right. Would then everything that's in R1 then apply to R2?
As long as it's listed as a permitted use in R1, that would be where it would be incorporated then.
Yeah, that's in Article 6.
So that would be a way of resolving it.
That would be my suggestion, as long as we're changing some of these ordinances. There's only,
We'd have to bring that back, right?
You'd have to bring that back.
I'm just asking out loud, I don't know, but, so a bunch of the not a bunch, but there's a series of R2 that's perpetual camping for Arrowhead. We wouldn't enforce covenants, but was it ever discussed that it's 2 camping units because of those perpetual camping lots?
Right, you have to be careful with that because there's certain things on their CSM as part of Lake Arrowhead that I believe allows them to have that.
that is a subdivision down there?
Yes, it is.
Well, the town wouldn't enforce a deed restriction though.
No, we won't. But I just wonder if that's why why we did 2 camping units, because there's that series of lots that are perpetual camping down there.
Correct.
Well, we recently had a proposal for an R2 subdivision, and again, there was concern about camping units then. So I just thought maybe it was time to adjust this or question it anyway.
Do you wanna maybe go back and watch it was just a year and a half ago, I think, when we changed this, maybe not even. Watch the meeting and see if it came up.
Yeah, we could. We could also bring back some draft language at the next meeting, that would give us some time to ask if it still wouldn't change the ones that are perpetual camping, they'd be noted as perpetual camping in that, cause those lots are noted in that ordinance. So
Right.
outside of that, it would be the one camping unit.
I'm just looking for at the future here, if we have another request come in for subdivision or 2, that we are prepared to control the camping units.
We can bring back language for camping units, separate from this language.
It's a good idea.
Just a thought.
You said we're gonna take 7C then and, move it to next month's agenda?
That's not, no,
No.
that's not what's being discussed. So I think during future agenda items, on your number 16, just mention it at that point. We will prepare some language, bring it back for discussion.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion on the accessory structures?
Good.
7D, consideration of a site plan of operation for Kevin Cole for the property located at County Trunk Highway Z, also described as Lot 1 of CSM 6703, located in part of Government Lot 2 and Government Lot 7, Section 2, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-47-85. Emily?
Okay, so there's 6 notice letters sent to properties within 200 feet of the affected property. This business would fall under the conditional use campground in B1 Business District. This conditional use was approved in 2016. with the condition that Mr. Cole would return to Plan Commission with a more detailed site plan before the start of the project. Included in the packet are minutes from the July 12th, 2016 meeting, along with the site plan and maps from the original application. Since 2016, there's been a number of land divisions, so the address is different in that, in those minutes and information than it would be in our packet for this, current agenda item.
Emily, would you also just cover the pieces from Adams County that are included in the packet, just as a reference?
Oh, yes. So I did include sorry, just flipping. So Kevin Cole did apply at Adams County for a special exemption permit. And so construction description on there is to excavate old ponds. That includes the filling and grading of that, I'm assuming filling of the ponds and grading of that, just the site overall. And then new sanitation for the 4 campers, is also included in the Adams County section. And then you can, he did include a stormwater runoff or permit. And then I just included, the other, water testing that was provided to, county.
Does Adams County still need to approve the permit to fill in those ponds?
Yes, so Adams County is waiting on our approval before sending it to their, before adding it to their agenda for approval.
And is it just that one issue, the special exception application, or the whole package?
So they're waiting on our approval for the special exemption.
Okay.
Cause they already have the stormwater runoff and they handle all sanitary, so they would not need our approval for that.
Okay.
I thought I read someplace that Adams County was requiring that any dredging was done in the ponds, that soil had to be removed from the area. I could be wrong, but I thought I read that.
Yeah,
Kevin, did you hear that question?
Yeah, could I clarify some stuff there?
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Basically, the ponds, I had gotten approval to dig the ponds. We took out 120 truckloads, and those were put on the site north of Romano's, where the condos are going in. And that process has all been done. What Adams County's waiting for is your approval, and then it's within 1,000 feet of the shoreline, so they have to do their shoreline approval of the site after you guys approve it.
So are your plans to dredge the ponds and keep the soil on site?
The ponds were dredged in 2000, I think it was 15, somewhere around there, 15 or 16. It was in 15, I think. And that work's all been done a long time ago.
So you're not planning any future dredging?
Nope. And actually, the site where the campground goes, none of that went in that area. It all went north of Romano's on that area there.
For your sewer, application to the county, are you gonna share a system? Would all 4 campers share that system?
There's 2 systems there. There'll be 2 campers on each system, 2 coming from the north and 2 coming from the south. And they're basically back to back, the system.
And then just to be clear that although campground is the term we're using, this is 4 sites. It would only be 4 sites.
Correct. Yeah, it's only been approved for 4 sites, yep, and that's all I have back there.
Mr. Chair, I do have
Nick?
a couple questions. First, a question for the applicant. This is Nicholas Flanagan, I'm the town attorney. Just had a general question for you and then a general comment, I think, to yourself and the Plan Commission. My question to you is, have you been working through the state with licensing and permitting thus far, or is this a step in the process that you are looking to get before any subsequent working with the state?
In your packet, you got a state-approved septic plan.
Yep.
It's already been approved by the state.
Yeah, no, I'm talking more about the campground.
A campground license, not
Yep.
related to the
Oh,
septic.
campground license, no, I'm waiting for your approval to start that process.
Okay, and so that's my segue then, just a general comment to yourself and the plan commission. So the town of Rome does have an ordinance that would be on point here, that I'd like to draw your attention to. We do have ordinance 247-4, which regulates campgrounds. Not that it's a bar to any approval here. Rather, it would be my recommendation that it be a condition on your approval. The ordinance that we have requires a town campground license, and that town campground license by our ordinance says that it will not be approved or issued until the state of Wisconsin issues any permits that are required. So they kind of build on one another, and because of that, we want to be aware of that, of course, because we want to make sure that those steps are met before the actual license that we would issue would be issued. And so I just want to make sure that we're aware of that piece in our ordinance. It's not zoning, but it is certainly relevant to a plan of operation, obviously.
I have been working with Wood County too. They do the inspections on the island, and that would be the inspector that would inspect the campgrounds. He also does Romano's inspections. So I've been kind of picking his brain all along, so I do everything right in the process, and he didn't see any problems as of now, so.
Okay.
What is that license called from the public health department? I mean, we deal with them with tourist rooming house license, but what is it called for a campground? Cause maybe we should also,
It's basically a state-approved campground, testing, and they do
okay.
Romano's also. He does Romano's, Wood County does.
I mean, you can.
yep, as
So
an arm of the state.
it
that
all
makes
kind of
sense.
builds on one another, right? I mean, so we could put that as a condition, but it's very likely that the state won't issue the permit that this would need. And because, you know, and our license is built upon the condition that the state issues the permits. And so we could put it as a condition, but it's also likely that it's going to come into play either at our campground license or the state required approval.
Is there anything that deals with refuse or rubbish or trash or requirements that the town can mandate so that it's properly picked up in a timely fashion, or is there?
Measurable condition, it could be placed that there would be some means of which to dispose of garbage that's located.
Okay, because
Yep.
I drove past there today and the campground that's behind Romano's needs a little look-see.
So just a reminder, just to the condition point, so
Yeah.
the conditional use has already been issued, but it is a relevant piece to a plan of operation.
Right.
And so, yes, it could be put as a condition during your approval, or recommendation, sorry, it would be a recommendation for approval.
What would be a typical kind, would it be like on, what you would require maybe like on a weekly basis or semi-monthly, or,
Well,
I
Well,
don't,
should we ask
Yeah,
maybe
you
what
could
his
ask.
plan is first? Cause
Oh,
he's
sure.
indicated that there's private, refuse that's gonna be provided, so.
Kevin, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I have on my site plan the location of the dumpsters,
mm-hmm,
and we plan to have Adams County landfill take care of the dumpster work for us.
and what,
But
it,
I assume that would be done weekly,
weekly?
yeah. Yeah, we don't wanna
That's the
create
only-
an odor there, that's for sure.
Can we just have him clarify if this is the only, is this what he's referring to then, right here?
On
Can
the
you
application.
clarify on the drawing?
So the question was on the drawing,
Yep.
just to clarify, if you have the entire packet in front of you, the color-coded drawing with, the green, pink, and yellow, is the refuse that you are referring to on the south section of this map, along that driveway.
Yes, that's correct.
So then according to Attorney Flanagan, we can, as part of our, conditions, we can make that he has proper enclosures and it's properly cared for on a regular basis, so there isn't a buildup.
Right, just further noting that it would be a condition to the site plan of
Yes,
operation.
plan of operations, thank you.
Just creating, making sure that we are aware of that separation between the conditional use that's already been granted.
Yes,
And the site plan of operation, which is before us today. Certainly that's relevant to the site plan and plan of operation, and so yes, you could put that as a condition here.
thank you.
I also have a question with regard to the acreage involved. I noticed on, the application, it shows, 6.469 acres. And then on the one for the county, I think it was 5.04 acres. I can't recall exactly. What's the difference in that?
The difference might be there's a lot across the road where the boat slips are going in. We're putting in 4 boat slips for these campsites. And there's a section there that I added on one. Maybe I didn't add it on the other one. I apologize for that.
Oh, it's 5.24, okay. So that's an acre of just about, of boat slips?
Wow.
So across,
Large.
That little finger across Highway Z.
so it's just,
Yes.
the acreage goes out into the lake, cause that's just how this was set up. It's really just this, oops,
That's right.
That's
It's
big white
sensitive,
square.
yeah,
it's this whole square, but it's really not
right.
0.7 acres there of land.
Okay,
Right. And the intent is to just have enough for how many boats per camp, like one, how many
There'll
slips?
be one slip for each boat, for each site.
So one boat, okay.
And Kevin, would you allow, annual, could they buy an annual placement here? Like, so they could be seasonal campers, they could be there all year, it wouldn't be a rotation every
Right.
weekend?
Yep,
Oh,
no, this is gonna be basically set up for snowbirds, 55 and older. And I'm trying to find a group of people that all kinda wanna have their own little community together and work together there and not get too wild and crazy on me. And then, they basically have a private fishing pond, and they'd have, the boat slip would go with the site.
I don't know if age has anything to do with wild and crazy, just saying.
hey,
hey,
I take exception to
Well,
that.
the odds are, actually, I didn't wanna have a lot of young kids running around, you know, I hate to say that, but I thought it would be a spot for maybe just some older people to enjoy themselves and have kind of a quiet spot back there.
But also with that said, you are not restricting, you're not age restricting this, right? You don't have to be 55 or older in order to access the campground, you don't have any age restriction on it.
Right.
There's a photograph of a proposed possible sign to advertise the campground. Is that something then that would have to be a separate permitted thing?
With the detail provided with this picture, yes, it would need to be a separate sign, cause we'd wanna see
The rendering of it?
dimensions, what it's really gonna look like outside of a sketch.
I think I have a picture of it, and basically it's just an old saw blade, similar to one that I have on the island. And it's just got 2 posts, and it'll be kinda cut into the post, and it'll be approximately 3 by 3. And it'll be off-road right away.
So just a reminder, to the applicant that you would need to, submit a sign permit application, along with that detail, and then, we'll review it, but to the point that was made, that would need a different approval, so just make sure that you submit that sign permit application.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Cole at this point from anyone?
should we make that part of the site plan of operation, then conditions too? Would that be appropriate to do that, so he remembers, or not necessary?
I would require the sign permit,
Okay,
yeah, outside of it, and
All
that's what, for all businesses too.
Okay,
It can be if you want, but.
all right.
And I'd just like to mention one other thing. I bought the Bob Tuttle house. We're
Oh,
gonna do a short-term rental there also. It's gonna be called Bay La Vie. And, we're in the process of totally remodeling it, putting decks, new windows, all that stuff. So what happens at the campground, really won't affect anyone privately that close. You know what I mean? It'll all be kind of part of that one complex eventually.
Okay,
So you'll see Kevin back in person when we come forward with the conditional use permit for that.
Yeah.
okay. Any further comments, questions by the commission? Questions for Mr. Cole? Okay, hearing none, then is there a motion, item number 8, to close the public hearing?
Oh. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Dan, or by Diana, second by Dan, to close the public hearing. Is there any further comment, discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Next section is to discuss and possible action on the following items. Number 9, discussion of possible action regarding the meeting minutes from Tuesday, January 10th, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
I would have one correction, and that would be just the next meeting date is the 2023 instead of 2022, and I also notice on today's agenda, it's the same.
Good eye.
Just one. This one's kind of,
2022.
Okay, the motion is made and by Jerry, seconded by Dan, to approve the minutes with the change to the date for the
next meeting.
next meeting.
So you wanna, is that an acceptable
Yes.
amendment? And to the second?
Okay. Being that it's been approved from both of the presenters, is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, discussion and possible action regarding the Joint Community Development Authority, CDA, and Plan Commission Subcommittee meeting minutes from January 10th, 2023.
Just a question, this is to close the loop because the subcommittee is
Yeah.
concluded. So there's minutes that are a reflection of their last meeting that would need to be approved.
Okay, well, then I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from January 10th, 2023.
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. A motion by Mike, second by Dan, to approve the minutes from the Joint Community Development Authority, the Planning Commission. Any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11, discussion and possible action, consideration of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the following purpose. The short-term rental at the property located at 1470 Rain Dance Trail, owned by Vic's Arrowhead LLC, also described as Lot 26 of White Eagle Addition to Lake Arrowhead, located in the southeast 1/4, northwest 1/4, section 13, town 20 north, range 5 east, town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 030-04713-0327.
I'll make a motion to grant the conditional use permit for the property at 1470 Rain Dance Trail, including the findings of fact.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve? Motion by Dan, second by Jerry, to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor then say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 12, discussion and possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of proposed amendments to chapter 360 zoning regarding residential zoning district requirements regarding roof pitch.
Just a reminder, this will be a recommendation to the town board.
I'll make a motion to make a recommendation to town board to make the amendment to chapter 360, to change the roof pitch to 312 across the board.
Second.
Motion by Jerry and second by Lori to approve the recommendation to the town board for the change in the roof pitch zoning. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 13 is going to be moved to next month's agenda. Is that correct?
No,
Which one?
No,
That's
it's,
gonna be a
it's a recommendation to discuss the camping,
Oh,
units for next month.
okay.
That's at the
That's
future agenda items.
I got you. I'm sorry.
separate item.
Discussion of possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of proposed amendments to chapter 360 zoning, residential zoning district requirements regarding accessory structures.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll make a motion to make a recommendation to town board to approve the amendments to chapter 360 zoning regarding the accessory structures as the proposed changes as presented.
Second. I'd note that accessory is spelled wrong here and in the town board agendas.
Marcy noted that too.
Is that copy and paste?
There's a lot of copy and paste and go, copy.
Okay, the motion is made by Jerry and seconded by Dan to recommend to the town board the proposed changes to zoning, chapter 360 zoning regarding the accessory structures. Is there any further discussion?
Now that is with regard to, the R1s, R2s, and all of the verbiage that is now in Article 6, correct? Article 7, with regard to all the accessory structures, detached garages.
It includes the definitions, it includes the general section, and it includes all of those.
The zoning districts.
Everything that's been presented to
Okay.
you in your packet. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, just ask a question about the gazebos. If someone has, just to clarify, when you say kitchen, like an outdoor kitchen, if someone has a gazebo built on the back, go through the building process and they have a gazebo built on the back of the house and want like an outdoor, you know how some people get pretty elaborate with outdoor kitchens. That go through a normal building permit, building process with you and the building inspector? You say a gazebo and no kitchen.
Do you mean when it's attached to the house?
Or added later, you know, like if they add an overhang, you know, you say 50% open at the top, and then they wanna have an outdoor kitchen, like a pizza oven or a grill, like a gas grill.
If it's attached to a house, that's not gonna be an accessory structure. That's gonna be in addition to the house.
Or if they add a patio and then wanna have a really nice grilled area with a counter and then build a pergola or a gazebo, not to mix terms,
Yeah,
not to
so
mix
if
terms, but add a gazebo to the back and then add a nice outdoor kitchen, an additional kitchen, you know what I'm
If
saying?
they have an outdoor kitchen, then
We'll deal
I'm
with,
trying to picture one with a grill in it. If they have an outdoor kitchen, they're gonna need to get all the permits to run electrical, plumbing. Can't imagine there's gonna be HVAC, but they'd need all that, the
Gas
permits
and-
taken, yes.
alright, okay,
Yeah.
alright, thank you.
What if it's propane?
If it's a grill, then you don't need a permit to
Okay,
put a grill out there.
Alright,
but they could put a canopy over,
If you can build a gazebo or buy a gazebo in a box, and as long as it's put together in a I wanna use my word, a non-collapsible, like structure, like there's no collapsible feature in it, it's gonna be a permanent gazebo structure.
right. Then you
I
could have.
think that answered your question, did it? Okay.
Yeah, the roof is what, I mean, what you put
Yeah.
underneath it is,
Yeah, whatever
Kinda-
you put underneath it, you put underneath.
the roof is what, if it
I'm just thinking outside of the box, you know how like we're looking at those more modern homes that architectures and families are looking at, like they have a, so now they're looking at these outdoor spaces that are getting a little bit more elaborate. I guess we'll kind of cross that bridge too when we come to it.
Yeah.
This kind of covers us for now, so we're in good shape.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need the building permit to build the gazebo. And it depends how big, if you're building it,
Right,
or if it comes in a
right.
box.
Thinking too far ahead. I think we're good for now. When
The
we get to
kitchen,
that,
get the necessary permits,
right.
yes.
But as far as somebody wheeling a grill under it, I mean, you're not gonna
I
stop anybody
understand.
from that.
I understand.
Really nice fireplace.
It's raining out.
Yeah.
This at least establishes limits on size and it's clear and everybody knows.
Right. It gets us our, yes, our starting point. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion by Jerry and second by Dan, it's on the floor, is there any further discussion? And hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 14, discussion and possible recommendation to the town board, consideration of a site plan of operation for Kevin Cole for the property located at County Trunk Highway Z, also described as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 6703, located in part of Government Lot 2 and Government Lot 7, Section 2, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number of 30-47-85.
Mr. Chair, just a couple comments
Yes.
regarding, there is a findings of fact to this one. Two notes on that. First off, if you look at the bottom paragraph on that findings of fact, that should be adjusted for the campground.
Rather
So
than
that's
storage
one
units.
note.
Yep.
The second note would be, this does have a reference to the term of the conditional use. Not that we can't just put indefinite, because that was what was granted in 2016, but you aren't putting a term. Just a reminder that we're not granting a conditional use. So this would be, if you are in your motion, making a motion to adopt the findings of fact, I'd ask that you do as amended with at least that use that's listed on the last paragraph. And you don't need to put a term.
The other items, though, I had noted from public hearing were secure and provide to the town the state campground license, secure a town campground license, and secure a sign permit with the town with details of the sign.
I have a question regarding the state campground thing, though. According to Nick, I thought our ordinance 247-4 makes that a requirement anyway, so would that be redundant, or?
It does make it a requirement, so we wouldn't issue our town license unless we had proof
The state.
of obtaining the state. So I would agree, there is redundancy with that, in that we wouldn't issue the license from the town until we were satisfied that that was met already.
Would that be like a chicken or the egg kind of a thing with the state, though? I mean, if we are making this a condition for our approval, but the state won't do the permit without our approval, would there
well,
be an issue?
I guess a question for Kevin, really, it's just, we're waiting on, you're not gonna submit to the state, or they're not gonna process until you've got the site plan and plan of operation approved, right?
Did you hear that, Kevin?
I can also comment.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You wouldn't submit your campground license until you got through this piece of plan commission and town board approval of the site plan.
Correct, yeah, they need your approval before they can give me approval.
Well, and one of the reasons for that is in that process that he's going to go through with the state, there is, I believe it's through DSPS, a requirement that a site plan be submitted. And so it's an interesting process, right? Because I think it would be likely the applicant would want to know that the site plan was approved by the town before submitting it to the state. So likely he needed this step done first, then would submit it to the state, at least for that portion of the license. Being able to say that he's gotten that approval from the town from the site plan perspective.
Our license is kinda just the last check that, oh,
It
you
is
did
the
all this
last
other
check.
stuff, right?
Absolutely. And so you wouldn't need to put the state license approval in there because our license is that last step. It was a good way of putting it. It's like the last stop. That will assure us that all of the other pieces are in place, and then we would process that, and if they are met, we would grant the license.
And one other thing, I do have state approval on the septic, and I do have the water test approved for the state, so that's part of that process also.
And I believe they received copies of those approvals in their packet tonight too, so.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion then to approve the conditional use permit for the site plan and plan of operation for Kevin Cole on the
Just
property.
site plan of operation, no conditional use. Just approve the site plan of operation.
And it's a recommendation of the board.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the town board that the site plan of operation for Kevin Cole on his property located on County Highway Z be approved or sent to the town board.
With securing a Town of Rome campground
Campground,
license.
the state approval for a campground license, a sign, and a sign permit,
And findings of fact,
and to include the findings of fact.
and I'll second that.
As, findings of fact as amended to reference campground in the last paragraph.
Not storage units, but campground. Okay, do you want me, do we need to repeat this?
Oh, and we also,
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Lori has one more.
and we also wanted to add, proper containment of refuse and maintenance of such, or regular containment and of refuse.
Adequate refuse collection.
Yes, or, yeah.
Or trash, whatever.
Okay.
Was that okay with the first and the second of that motion? To add that one too?
That's fine with me.
Sorry, that's fine with me.
Okay, should we repeat this or not?
I could repeat that the motion was to recommend the findings of fact to the town board, noting the amendment to a campground on the findings of fact with the additional pieces placed of securing a Town of Rome campground license, securing a sign permit with the town, and proper placement and collection of refuge.
And the sign permit.
Yep, I said that.
Enclosure, yes, placement, enclosure, and maintenance of yeah.
Does that district provide for enclosure requirements for refuse?
I don't believe so.
So-
Well, I don't,
Gateway
I don't,
was,
yeah.
I know, I was gonna say Gateway and Rome Town Center were the only
Yeah.
ones that went
Right.
deeper into that.
So I don't know
Not a
how we can
requirement.
require that.
Sorry, those two required screening. I do not, B1 does not. Like the fencing of a, dumpster.
Right.
B1 does not, but it would be a measurable condition. Or was that?
Or you could just reword that condition to be adequate refuse collection and containment. So as to
I'm
not-
looking down the path of the nuisance ordinance, if there's
Well,
trash
I was
that's
just-
piling up
so to
everywhere.
finish that,
Yeah.
so as not to create a nuisance condition. That way, it all brings it back if by chance it was not contained or collected in a manner that caused a nuisance, right, a smell or rodents or.
And my only thought process on the screening thing is if you do it here and then next week somebody comes and you don't do it there, like what?
That's why I said collection and containment.
I like
So
the way the
that-
attorney worded it, and that goes along with what Commissioner Goldman has stated, so, thank you.
You don't necessarily need screening if you got proper containers to put it in.
That's what he just
Goes-
said, thank you.
You have it, Jamie?
If we're gonna print a new one though.
I think we got it covered.
Two drafts are gonna go right there, okay.
And that'd be a good example to have for future reference too, if the same thing comes up, right, Attorney?
Okay, then the motion is on the floor with a second. Motion by me, second by Jerry, to approve or recommend to the town board the site plan of operation with the attached conditions. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Item number 15, discussion and possible referral to town board, approval of Joint Community Development Authority and Plan Commission Subcommittee updates of the comprehensive plan objectives to be forwarded to the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission for a plan update.
So Dennis from North Central Regional Planning, just had a conference call with Emily and I, and he just asked that we have something formal in minutes, that the Plan Commission has reviewed this, that you agree with those changes, and then they would make the amendment. It still has to come back through the whole approval process of a comp plan, but Dennis just, he just asked, that's what most municipalities do, to have something that would be on a noticed agenda in minutes, that those changes were reflect what we've been talking about through the subcommittee meetings.
So these are the reflective changes.
And then the map will be updated soon to reflect all of the changes in a more, in a final map. These are still drafts that are getting worked on, by North Central.
And just note that since the comp plans require that 30-day notice, to meet what I think is being asked for, it might be a referral to the future agenda. Just know that it may not be next month because we need 30 days of notice for comp plan, for public hearing.
So
Well,
okay.
then can I make the motion then that the minutes of this meeting reflect that we adopt the goals, objectives, and policies created by the Joint Community Development Authority and Planning Subcommittee, Planning Commission Subcommittee, to be sent to the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
With maybe the exception that instead of adopt, just we refer it to them to incorporate
Okay.
the edits and set it for a future meeting for a public hearing and review.
Okay, then the goals, policies, and objectives be referred to the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission for their information to move forward.
I'll second that. So does that mean that they're gonna provide the real tracked changes, I guess I'll say?
They would provide the finished document.
Yeah, they're gonna accept all the track changes and put it into the,
The comp plan.
yeah. They hold that document.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's gotta come back here again,
Again,
and then,
It would have to because of
Yep.
the
30
public hearing
days.
requirement. Yep. And then after that public hearing, then there would be an agenda item to recommend approval to the town board and go over.
I would just like to ask a question on what Commissioner Goldman said here. We will see these track changes in a document that show the
They're
It'll
gonna
be a final product.
yeah, they're gonna accept the
Oh.
track changes and put them into the comp plan.
so this body, this is the first time we're gonna see all of this document. We're already moving it on to North Central Regional Planning.
well, I think if
And
you
The
wanna
joint
ask
committee did
questions now.
spend 10 months
Yeah,
reviewing.
we did, yeah.
Well, I respect that and understand that, but that was a committee of people that saw it.
But it went through both processes. We did every goal at Plan Commission, right? And then all of that got taken to the joint. Then joint said, here's all the input from Plan, do we agree? Let's go through it. And now it's coming back with all of those track changes presented,
I think
yes.
it was before you got on here, Lori. When did you start?
April, but I haven't really seen
The
it.
plan commission went through all of the
Oh.
objectives, then we said, well, we want
Oh.
CDA's opinion, so they did it, and then we had the joint committee and then put all
Oh,
that together and did a couple additional edits, and here we are.
And because this is my first time actually seeing all of these documents, I do have a couple of questions with regard to what the background is on it, and perhaps, someone can,
Go ahead.
okay, thank you. On chapter, I don't know if you, should I go by it through chapter by chapter that I have the questions on?
By chapter would be easiest.
Okay, I don't have anything on chapter 2. That was pretty,
Would have been nice if we'd put the chapter number on those proposed changes too.
Yeah.
And the goals.
We took them as they gave them.
on chapter 3, which is the, that one does have it on the bottom.
Yeah,
Bottom right, that's housing. On the first page, objective 2, policy number 5, it's just a 30. It's just a typo of, instead of TOO, just 2. I don't know if these are gonna be amended before they're sent in, or. But then on, objective 3, policy number 3, to encourage developers of rental units to build the units, et cetera. Was there a discussion with regard to density on this, or traffic patterns, or anything in that regard, with regard to the development of rental units?
Ask the question one more time, please.
Yes, I can rephrase it.
With regard to the developing of rental units and build in areas of the town, where they will be compatible with neighborhoods, was there discussion with regard to any density issues and how many, would it be limited, like a maximum amount of units that we would entertain? Or
Yes.
too many units, or what about traffic patterns?
This policy, the way it's worded, is specifically related to duplexes and other multifamily units, correct?
Yes.
And when you see the map that's coming out, the areas in which you can actually construct those are extremely limited.
Very small.
And I'll also mention it as a somewhat of a segue. At your next meeting, it will be requested that we review, in fact, the multifamily district, because I think there's some clarity we can add to the language. So very timely that you ask that. As we look at that, you'll see we do have some limitations surrounding the units and size in that specific district. And we'll be looking to discuss that further and possibly clarify some of the language that we have.
Okay,
As far as specific policy, you wouldn't set that in the comprehensive plan. It's general.
Right, so the
well, but
policy
it
is
would
gonna
be
be
like
more
a
general.
recommendation to those people that will create the policy
you-
that,
Yeah, but you wouldn't do that in here. Like you're saying, a limit by number or something like that? We do
no,
that
but
through
that
town ordinance.
encourage them, not to do a highly dense kind of a development, or something that would affect traffic plans. Not say this is what you're going to do, but just encourage them, which is what policy 3 is.
It's a tough one because the town wants it right here in the business park, and that's pretty much the only place it's gonna be allowed, right?
Yeah, so there is a density requirement in Rome Town Center too with the apartments that are there, right? You can't they can't build any more of those apartment buildings before there's more development in Rome Town Center.
In mixed.
Mixed use.
Mixed use.
Sorry, in
Yeah.
mixed use.
In multifamily, they could, but we would want high density there. We would be looking for high density there, right? But what Supervisor Goldman is saying is there's outside of Rome Town Center, which is approximately a 10 to 13 acre site, there isn't much for multifamily in town. What there is either already developed or will be developed soon.
And this would also refer to, like the R3 zoning, which we'll discuss for future agenda items as well, but it's, focuses more on, buildings that are 3 units and more. It would not allow less.
Yes.
So it's,
The policy, the way a comp plan, I'm probably stating this again, cause I've probably said it a number of times, but, this is your guiding document as we amend or look to, potentially amend our zoning ordinance,
That's what the specifics
it should be
would
looking
be.
back to your comp plan, and so this it is a little bit of a tricky process because this is setting some guiding principles that may help guide us as we look to possibly amending our ordinance or in the future. So I think this is saying that we're going to be mindful, right, of areas which are appropriate for that higher density development. And you'll see the future land use map is in there as well, which is what Supervisor Goldman's getting at. But then as we look to our ordinance and possibly amending or at least considering some of that language, this can help guide our decision making. And so you want it to be somewhat specific, but you also want it to, leave some. You don't need it to be totally specific, like this is going to be, this dense, right? Or, you want it to be a roadmap, not necessarily the road you have to take, right? Yeah, it can be a general way of getting there.
Well, and I guess there's a semi-conundrum here because, you still want to maintain the character of our town, but yet encouraging multifamily and rental properties, which would increase traffic flow and increase other things that there are, some citizens that are not all in favor of it. So it's kind of, a mixed bag here with regard to.
Well, I think maybe you're getting hung up on the start of that sentence because it's not to mean any and all rentals. It's specifically we're talking about duplexes and multifamily units in this policy, right?
Mm-hmm. So not apartment buildings or wouldn't apartment buildings would be considered?
Yeah, but you can't really build apartment
multifamily
buildings anywhere else other than the limited areas that we have left.
Well, unless someone came in and asked for a change in zoning.
Well, but that's I'm glad you made that comment. We had a lot of discussion and spent a lot of time on that future land use map. We've been giving out the zoning amendments like candy over the years, and that has to come to an end. And that map is what gives the people in these seats the power to say no, we're not going to do that. So when we get to reviewing that map, yeah, everybody should definitely scrutinize that. We put a lot of time into it. We hope everybody likes it, but we're trying to limit specifically that thing though.
Okay, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this statement I think would encourage development of high density units like apartment buildings in Rome Town Center where we have a designated area for them, and maybe not around town where we wouldn't want them. So it's just encouraging appropriate development.
Okay. It's a little bit of a concern because I've been seeing our forestry going from forestry to R1 or R2, and, I just, it's a little concerning with regard to the changing of zoning in the town. But, then on chapter 4, I don't understand, that would be objective 4, policy 1, it says special attention should be given to the traffic speeds in residential areas and the cross-traffic volume on weekends. I was thinking about, what about even peak tourist season, or is weekends more or less just the highest criteria there? And
I think typically they're talking about Apache and Highway 13 because of the transfer site usage there.
okay, so that's where they were.
And I know the county is involving the state, I think, in another traffic study for that corner.
On which corner?
Highway 13 and Apache.
Apache by Rome. And then on policy 2, actually the next policy, it says policy 1, that should be 2, and then policy 3. Policy 2 should be 3.
You see that?
Page 30.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, on policy 2 now, it says the town's transportation system. I don't quite understand what that means. Is that the town's road system?
Mhm.
So should we because then I notice on, objective 5, it does say town's road system, so are we incorporating something additional in what's a town's transportation system?
I think on this one, we were also trying to be encompassing of more than if you were driving a car, like what happens if you took your bike to work, or you walked to work, like, so could our transportation system also be the Link the Lakes Trail? Could our transportations, you know, could that also be access to trails for UTVs and ATVs if you took your UTV or ATV to work? I think we were trying to get more encompassing in that transportation system to be more than just vehicles.
Okay.
Short of trains and planes.
Yet.
So then, with regard to utilizing, should it be consistent throughout, I guess, with regard to the town's transportation? Again, like in objective 5, where it says town's road system, should we be more consistent and just say transportation system in there as well?
So this one, it says ensure that roads within the road system are able to handle, I think that objective is just directed towards roads more than the overall transportation system, which is why that verbiage changed.
Okay, I walk on a road. Just say, okay, I just,
May I just piggyback on some of the comments you made really quick, if you're on
Sure.
on that page, is that okay?
Go ahead.
On page 38, chapter 4, on, the one where it says policy 1, special attention given to the traffic speeds in residential areas and the cross-traffic volume on weekends, saying, I guess just my comment would be on weekends. I think we're getting so much cross-traffic volume now every day of the week throughout the year that I wonder if just my comment would be that pointing out on weekends, I don't know that. My comment would be is that cross-traffic volume any day of the week is getting to be interesting on all of our main roads, but that would just be my comment. On page 30, also we have, policy 5 where it says work with the state DOT and Adam County on safety, access, and traffic circulation issues. It says this includes but is not limited to State Highway 13 and County D. It says Alpine Drive, Apache, Archer Avenue, 14th and 15th Avenue. Actually, Adams County has nothing to say about our town roads. They only have a say on our county roads.
That's why
So-
it was taken off.
It's not crossed out.
Are we looking at the same thing?
But we do
She's
mention
looking at
county
this
somewhere,
Number
I
5.
think that's why.
Am I missing something?
Oh, I'm looking, the same roads are listed elsewhere here. I'm reading the wrong
Sorry,
thing.
am I reading it wrong, or?
No, I think we just listed Adams County because we do list County Road D. And
Oh.
the traffic safety committee that we have in the county, it is also done by the county, so I think that's why we had just kept county in there because we do list a county road.
Okay. It might just be confusing to some people that maybe don't realize that they have really nothing to help us with on our town roads, but maybe just keep it in mind somehow. Thank you.
Those were all my concerns with regard to chapter 4. Chapter 5, that's utilities and community facilities. I don't understand, or maybe someone can fill me in, why when you're asking to seek state and policy number 3 I'm talking about, to seek state and federal grants and other assistance when available in coordination with the grants committee. I understand we now have a grants committee and they're active, but what is meant by coordination, and does it need to have specific authority by a grants committee? What if we have citizens that wanted to just go forth, they have their pet project and wanted to apply for a grant, would they just be able to go to Jamie and ask her, can we go forward with this grant, and, is anyone else doing it? Why do we need
Well, I
a
think it's just a
grants
suggestion that you
committee?
utilize the resource that the town has, but this isn't thou shall, this is just guidance. right?
Well,
It's a
Yes, but when
guideline.
you're gonna read this, it says in coordination with grants committee.
So,
It's almost like you're obliged, or it's obligatory to go to a grants committee.
so I actually believe I remember the conversation with this one. We were talking about, well, we have a grants committee now, so let's include that in there to make it kinda, so, like what Dan said, so people know to use the resources like the grants committee when, seeking grants.
The other piece of that is, if you would be, a lot of state and federal grants are gonna have to be associated with the town, right? Like, we would have to be the name on the grant when it was submitted. So you'd have to coordinate with us, because otherwise you couldn't submit the grant.
On all grants?
Not on all grants, but on a lot of federal and state grants. You would have to go through the municipality. It would have to have some sort of partnership with us, not on all grants, but on several.
So is the grant committee a perpetual committee now?
It is a subcommittee of, we call it the grant subcommittee, but yes, I mean, it has,
Which could
Membership.
potentially be revoked or not?
right, but that's one of those, we have lots of resolutions that could change with different boards, yeah. But would there always be some, I mean, I think the other piece of the grants committee and the coordination, this came up recently with stewardship grants, or with applying for legacy grants. If the grant committee knows, and you can only apply for one, does it make sense to coordinate around the one that we think we have the best opportunity with? And we would only know that if we got told, right? Or if you can, I mean, if you can only make one application, does it make sense to put our eggs into the basket that we think we would have the best opportunity to receive?
Well, I just don't feel adding a grants committee in, seeking state and federal grants and other assistance when available. And if it's a requirement of a state and federal grant to have the town involved, wouldn't they just come to you, Jamie, and say?
That's what this is. This isn't for an individual.
Correct. Well, if I wanted some funds for one of my pet projects,
What's your pet project?
I don't know.
Does
If
it
I had,
involve the town property?
possibly, sure.
Then you're not doing anything unless the town board is on
Right,
board with it.
right. Why do we need a grants committee to coordinate with the person that wants to apply
Town
for the
board
grant?
can circumvent that if they want.
I think
Sure.
pretty much your grants committee's gonna have all the information available as to how to apply for that versus you trying to figure that all out by yourself.
That's the
As an
objective of the
individual,
grant
right.
committee, is
Right.
to have the
Might
knowledge
flag
base.
where two people are going after the same thing also. I mean, it's kind of
Right.
a structure, am I correct? Just to give some
Yep.
structure to it.
But also assistance. I mean, Jeff sits on the grants committee. If he was here tonight, Jeff's a writer, right? So he helps to provide guidance and editing and structuring before you submit it, right? Which, if you were an individual and maybe hadn't applied for grants in the past, it's also a good resource to utilize those individuals to help to give the grant the best odds.
Okay. I just, the way I interpret this and the way I read it, it's in coordination with the grants committee. So you're gonna seek state and federal funding in coordination with the grant committee. If I was a writer and I could do a grant myself, why do I need a grants committee? Why do I need to coordinate with them?
And the town board might tell you, fine, do it yourself and bring your work back.
Okay,
This isn't,
It's not a policy, or
it's not a policy, it's not.
It's not cut in stone.
ordinance.
This is a guideline
right.
that we should be
But
using.
my interpretation of this guideline is, oh, I guess I have to go to a grants committee.
Doesn't say that.
Okay,
I guess the flip side of that is, we still have the what if fund through Encourage, and those could be individuals that wanted to, the hometown Rome players applied for a grant for lighting, right? They didn't need to come through us for that, but they submitted it right to Encourage. It didn't have anything to, it was lighting for their shows, right? That didn't have anything to do with the town per se. So, they could still be free to do that. There wouldn't be any reason why they couldn't.
If anything, somebody asks a question, and we say, oh, you can do it yourself. That's how I see it. I send a lot of letters, and they They say, well, what do I do now? It's like, well, this is just a sort of conversation. We're good to go.
The last question I have is on chapter 7, land use, objective 2, policy 6. Identify lands for future acquisition for the county forest program. What kind of lands would we identify? What types of lands? What are the zoning portions of those lands right now that would,
Forest
is it
land that
any
you
of
don't
it?
like seeing disappearing.
Right.
Forest land. Yeah, and we had worked with Plan Commissioner Wiesner on identifying some properties in town that would match that criteria, that are already zoned as
FR?
FR.
Okay.
And on how we could, if there were options for purchase or they could be enrolled, we've identified them on our future land use map as staying in FR.
Okay, so the county forest program,
Yes, because municipalities can't have forest programs.
Okay.
Adams County is enrolled in the forest program through the state. Individual municipalities can't. I mean, you could have natural lands, but the forest program is a county entity.
okay. Does any of this identification, does that affect, does that have any tax implications for the town at all, as far as reduction in taxes or income generated by these acquisitions?
Yeah, Jerry can help me with this, but so county forest land is not MFL land. So once it would be rolled in county forest, obviously it's owned by the county, so it would be taken off of tax rolls. But what's usually done in the forest program is through the harvesting, the growing and the harvesting of it. That's what is offsetting your loan for your likely purchase price. And then the state has other opportunities through that to help offset those costs. I know some counties now, not to confuse the issue anymore, but some counties are utilizing their county forest land to be carbon neutral. So let's say you're an airline and you want to be carbon neutral and you know how
We
much fuel you
use-
used. You pay the county to grow that much in trees in order to offset your
Offset.
carbon.
Okay,
The income from the county forest, usually about 25% goes to pay off the loan. The rest goes to the county for administration. And there's counties up north that basically the county is funded off the county forest program, off the income from it.
It's not funded,
I mean,
certain
we don't have
areas
that
are
much timber,
funded.
but
Like they can buy equipment, they can build new buildings. You know,
Yeah, the-
things like that, yeah,
county can do anything with the money that's left over
right.
after they pay the 25% of the loan payment.
those were my only concerns, Chairman.
I have a couple.
Okay,
On the very first page, I just have a question, regarding, under objective 2. It says visit Rome. It identifies Visit Rome, but then in other areas we refer to our destination marketing organization. Just curious if there was any reasoning behind why in some areas we refer to it as Visit Rome and then in other areas we refer to it as the DMO. Was there specific reasons for why you opted to do it that way?
For this one, I think it's because we call out Tri-Lakes Management District, so we wanted to put all the names in there.
Okay. Alright, so maybe
If I
in,
recall that correctly.
okay, and maybe in there, just then for correct purposes, it's called Visit Rome, Wisconsin LLC. Maybe you might just wanna make sure that the name is used correctly. And then back
Make a
on,
note that
It's INC,
oh, are they incorporated? Oh, alright,
yeah, to do a nonprofit.
okay.
Just note, we'll check for where else it says DMO, just to make sure it's appropriate, in case we wanna make it all Visit Rome or all DMO.
DMO was the original language, wasn't it?
They're identified as a destination marketing, yeah, so it's just how they're classified, yeah.
And my recollection was there was some discussion about, there were certain areas where it was felt that specifically referencing the name, like Emily said, was more appropriate. In other ones, where it was
Okay.
more general in nature, just referencing it as a DMO was appropriate, but certainly that can be gone through and for updating the language, it should be updated at least to Visit Rome, Wisconsin. I believe if I remember right, we did, 2 with, the filings that we did, with the IRS. We did, both Visit Rome, Wisconsin, and their legal entity name is INC at the end.
Inc., okay. And then on page 72, chapter 8, in some places we have protective services, comma, fire and ambulance service, and sanitary sewer. Understand sanitary sewer, but if we say protective services, to me that encompasses police, fire, and ambulance. So it might be a little cumbersome to have all of that. In the areas where we have protective services, maybe we wanna, not to make you go back through the document right now, if you maybe just wanna scan the document and see where we have protective services, fire and ambulance. If we wanna spell it out, police, fire, comma, ambulance, sanitary sewer. Maybe you wanna check that in other places and spell it out. Cause protective services, again, encompasses all 3. You wanna do it just protective services or spell it out, police, fire, comma, ambulance services. Okay? Those are my only comments. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then there is a motion on the floor.
Was there a second to that motion?
Yes, there was. Dan did.
Oh, okay,
It was
thank
Dan-
you.
Myself and Dan, to approve or to recommend refer to the town board.
No, refer to.
North Central.
North Central.
Regional planning.
Okay. The objectives to be forwarded to the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission with the changes that have been discussed.
And setting the item for a future agenda,
Okay,
and we'll take care of the timing pieces, because it won't be on next agenda because of the time. Required to notice it.
anything further? Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Dates and times for future agenda meetings, 16 next agenda items. Okay, now, multiple campers, in, R2.
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 R3, I believe it is, a review of R3.
There will be a site plan of operation amendment, the one we discussed last month, about the, change of the orientation of buildings for the condo storage units. So they will be coming back.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they need to see on next month's agenda then?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair, with regards to that, with that, site plan of operation amendment, I see there's signs out there that they're advertising sales. Is that an approved sign that they can have there in advance of, to have sales without having any sort of construction or anything going on at this time? I'm asking the question, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it was approved.
okay,
So if they're trying to sell to maybe fund their project,
okay.
I feel like that.
I didn't have a chance to check the ordinance, I've been busy, so, all right, so they can have a pre-sign out there prior to having any sort of building, and
Yeah, and that would be temporary signs too.
that's
Right, I think
temporary.
It would be under this, there's a section that don't require a permit, if I recall.
It's a permanent sign. It's a
So
permanent,
this- So, signs that don't require a permit, under that section, I think are references to, realtor and real estate signs, which I think this would be.
I see, okay, great,
So not talking about permitted or not, just the signs that don't require a permit, I think there's a section under there. That's the section that, we'll take a look at it too, and if we need to, we can provide an update. But
no, that helps me understand, thank you. No, I appreciate that, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I will not be able to attend next month.
Okay, neither will I, so.
How's everybody else's, feeling on that?
I'm in for now, but that might change.
Might change for me too.
March 14th, right? Am I looking at the right
It
date?
is, yeah, same, 2023.
We will
I
only
made a
say that
note.
'cause, I
Could
mean,
bump it up to 24 if we try.
if we notice something in the newspaper, right, like we we have to do that 20 days in advance. So if by chance you can't, just for fear of not having a quorum, please let us know as soon as possible. Because we can either alter the meeting date, or maybe we would have to say we couldn't have one in March if we couldn't achieve a quorum, so.
Okay,
At this point, it doesn't sound like there's anything urgent that has to be addressed, but that could change.
and again, the next meeting date will be March 14th, 2023 at 4 o'clock, right here in the building. And then I'll declare this meeting adjourned at 5:26 PM. Thank you, everyone.